Yo guys, what is going on? Nickname is just Yellow, and today this Norwegian hardcore PC gamer will make a video about randomness in CSGO. So this is gonna be gaming science-like. It's a couple of rather random videos I make about subjects. This is gonna be about randomness as in, you know, in real life, how it works out, how in a gaming context it works out, and in relation towards game sense, as it's called, how it works out and how you can be able to escalate your level with it by understanding its true nature. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the pistols in CS, because they are rather random. They cause disorder and chaos where we would not like it to be. Also, it makes the money system way less effective, and thus it kind of throws the entire game off a little bit, but you can still play outside of playing into the hand of the enemy, if that made any sense. I don't know where I was going with that, but essentially, even if pistols are insane in this game, you can play around them. So, first thing we need to understand is the nature of randomness and how it works out. So, the crazy thing about living in this day and age is that you can only predict things into the future so far. With, for example, the forecast, I don't know what you call it in English. Point in case with that is that you can only predict what will come of the weather so far into the future. As technology advances, we can always predict further and further into what might go down at, but it's incredibly difficult to track an infinite amount of molecules in gas and liquid form, and what they will do and how they will interact with each other, and also how they get morphed, you know, with each other depending on the terrain. So knowing this, the same goes with anything that you might do in your life, anything that might go down in you know, your phase of life, if that made any sense. And also the same goes with any kind of game that might have tactics to it that you're playing. But you can predict them so far, and the only way to do that, though, is to understand and learn the probable outcomes of the things that you do in the game. And in the case of Counter-Strike, that means that you need to play the game a lot, and you need to focus on what goes down and what factors that will interact with the game. Everything from possible epic moves to possible terrible moves. A nice one there, for example, was that I predicted that, okay, because we have shut down the enemy so many times, maybe they will go for a rush on down second mid to A eventually, and I ran up there, I sprayed down 2 people and hit 150. So just by playing it very vaguely but still very skillfully, you can easily be able to change the game towards your outcome, and thus be able to get so and so many rounds, even if you might screw up here and there. Another thing is to always predict failure and always predict negative outcomes to happen. That way you will always be prepared for them, and you won't really take the mental hit of getting shit on, if that ever happens in CSGO, like somebody just rail up on you and dink you, which I do believe happened earlier here, because that is well possible within the game's limits. A nice little comparison to how I got really familiar with that, and thus I had a relatively easy time ranking up in CSGO without really getting mentally pushed down in the dirt, even if I got smashed, was because I had in the past with Call of Duty, I watched like some insane amount of clips in that game. Everything from people just rolling up and shooting one bullet, killing 4, 5, 6, 7 at one point 7 people with one bullet, which is just insane, should never happen. And yeah, being one of those guys, it's not even like lame anymore to get killed by one of those magic bullets, essentially because it's fucking magic that it do happen. So there's that. Another thing is like somebody just shooting through the wall or jump shooting or like any kind of crap like that. As long as it can happen and people will play a little bit wild, it might happen, and thus if it happens, if you know it can happen, you shouldn't really be surprised even if it does. Even if you should be surprised, okay? So it's kind of weird of a way of how to handle it, but it's just the nature of the beast, you know? Anything that might happen, if you get used to it, it won't really catch you off guard. That's just the nature of how that works out at. So yeah, another thing is that this whole stuff right here, like how to predict stuff and how it will all work out and how you can, you know, play based on probability, it all goes in tandem with how you should think about poker to a certain extent, but also chess. So there's that. And now let's talk a little bit about the pistols, because they throw the game off on some maps, in some scenarios. They throw it off, not completely, but pretty well. And the only way I think that you could either work this out would be to revert the pistols to the weak, but still more skill required tools that we had in the past, because that way it would create more order in the game, which is something that I really enjoy when you think about it, because that way you can actually predict the game, you can predict further into the game, increasing the level of the meta game and also the intelligent requirements for playing Counter-Strike. But on the other hand, if you add a certain level of randomness, more crazy fun and also positive or negative effects might happen. You know, for example, somebody will be able to crush enemies better with less, or they might fail more frequently with more, which it has its own entertainment value, but also kind of fun value, because even if you're terrible at the game, you can still get a 180 flick headshot, because your pistol can one-dink somebody. Another thing is that I don't think that it would be smart to have the pistols to be so overpowered compared to what they were in the past, because it essentially puncture the entire economy to a certain extent. As long as everybody gets skill, you can play around somebody rushing with the Tech 9s or 5.7s or P250s or Deagles or whatnot, but it really throws the game off, and it just makes it more dumbed down, and that is not really what Counter-Strike is about. It's not why Counter-Strike became good. It's not why people actually, when they are smart, enjoy the game, and thus play it even more. And it's also one of the things that goes against skilled players actually keeping the enemies that are weaker at bay, because weaker enemies, they can just buy something that is relatively cheap and they can still get back into the round. So it's a real clusterfuck, but in the end of the day, you can still, by predicting what might go down, you can play around it and you can counter it, and it's not really a big issue as long as you have the experience in the game and you know what to expect. So I don't think this is a serious thing either, which is probably the main reason for why people like Thorin, which have been around this game way longer than me even, and I've been here for quite some time, believe it or not, from the lovely 1.6 superhero mod, shout out. That mod was awesome. It's probably not that much of a big deal, because the game still becomes flavorful compared to other esport games like Call of Duty, which you can't really use that much equipment in the past. It was relatively stale and stuff like that. And, you know, you can still, to a certain level, just dominate enemies, even if stuff like the AWP gets nerfed, and the recoil manipulation that Scream in the past also abused, I guess you could say. Those kind of things got nerfed and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully people enjoy this video and learn something. Let's play and predict the future as well as we can. If you want to support the channel, we got the Patreon stuff. Even though, again, a like and a favorite and a subscribe, that means well enough for me. So thanks for watching, have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play, people.